Well, also today, it's the last day of the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Summit that is continuing in Midrand. Activists today have been protesting about what they say is government's failure to keep its word on promises made to women in this country as far as safety is concerned. Let's get you a live update. Bring in our reporter, Zikhona, Tshona. Zikhona, day 2 of the summit today. Do the people there feel that what government has now said and trying to reassure them on the previous, shall we say, broken promises will actually materialize?
Certainly not, Tembekile. People are really feeling there is a lack of support from government with regards to fighting gender-based violence. There's been huge complaints about lack of funding and lack of support. And these are people, civil society groups that work on the ground with victims of gender-based violence. And they're saying they basically feel like as though they are the ones that are implementing the plans that government took on in 2018 in a commitment to fight gender-based violence following those protests across the country with a call for government to take the fight against gender-based violence seriously. Civil society is saying they feel like they're doing this by themselves. Yesterday, you remember, we had the admission by the president who said he does admit that government is not giving this the agency and urgency that it does deserve. And civil society groups saying that they are pleased that the president acknowledges that government needs to pull up its socks, but words are not enough. They want to see actions, they want to see implementations, especially after this summit, which we know concludes today. But I want to bring in an activist from the Northern Cape, Shane Griquas from the Griquas Foundation. You saying as the Northern Cape, you feel left out of any activities that are happening with regards to government?
Yes, we do feel left out in terms of active involvement. We want to be involved. We want to take decisions with government and not only fill up the bus. We did recently have a provincial summit where we had about 70% of our civil societies involved, but we do feel left out in terms of the funding. Funding is given to the department takes the funding and hires social workers for the GBVF sector in their offices, whereas we as NGOs feel we could have hired those social workers to be on the ground with us and not us calling them to send us those social workers and making appointments. We feel we need to be involved in everything, nothing without us for us. And if government doesn't step up, then it means the system collapses. Then it means the NSP on GBVF collapses. The 6 pillars means nothing to us if we are not directly involved. And we need to have them being accountable to that.
All right. And then post the summit, what are you hoping you'll get out of it?
We hope that government will address the issues and take the bull by its horns. We hope that the South African Police Department will be more visible, more active, and dealing directly with us as social civil society organizations as well. We hope to see that all, for example, in Northern Cape, all 95 police stations have visible access and accessible victim-friendly rooms and gender-based violence desks. We want Police Minister to use the same energy that he used to run around to Langa and Kailicha and Enedale. He must run to Kimberley, where we have a 34-year-old lesbian who was gang raped and poured with paraffin to destroy all the information, all the DNA data evidence. She was gang raped and killed. No social support, no psychosocial support, no counseling from government. No one came back afterwards to support the family. No feedback from police. So we want after the summit police to give feedback, police to be actively intact with victims and their families. And you have this lesbian that has been raped, nobody arrested. So we want Becky Taylor to use the same energy to come to us after the summit immediately and address the LGBTI community and address civil society organizations. We want these organizations to be involved.
Thank you so much. That's Shane Griquas from the Northern Cape, the Griquas Foundation. He was able to actually pose his comments and concerns directly to the Minister of Police, Becky Taylor. Now, Tembekile, a huge part of today's conversations has also included the private sector. There's a call for collaboration with civil society, government, and the private sector. That's also part of the National Strategic Plan on gender-based violence and femicide, fighting gender-based violence and femicide. So to talk to me more about the private sector is Yanni de Villiers from Business Unity South Africa. You were saying, as the private sector, you acknowledge that you are absent in this fight against gender-based violence. Why is that?
Not by choice, that's for sure. We are definitely marginalized in this conversation. I think a very good example is the fact that we received an invite to this specific summit a week or two ago. We are not part of the planning process when it comes to government and to these kinds of interventions. So we are reliant on the fact that we have people who are very passionate within business, I'm one of them, to attend these kinds of summits, to say what we want to say, to try and coordinate and to bring attention as well to the fact that there are private sector entities and individual companies who are really trying to do their absolute best with limited resources, despite not being part of the mainstream discussion around the eradication of GBVF in this country.
And over the past couple of days, the past 2 days, you've been able to interact with some of the civil society groups. Do you think this opens the doors for your involvement now?
Absolutely. But again, we are reliant on wonderful NGOs doing amazing work in this country to come to us and to connect with us and for us to connect with them. There isn't this coordinated place. For instance, the NGBVF Council and the board that is in process of being brought to life. We are not involved in a centralized structure. So we are on the outside trying to coordinate with NGOs as we see, which at the end of the day is a very piecemeal kind of reaction. And it's not what we want to do. We want to coordinate. We are committed. We want to eradicate GBVF as much as anybody else in this room.
Do you think you can have conversations around how you can get yourselves involved without them reaching out to you?
I know we can. And we definitely will. And I'm so thankful that I was the chosen representative to be here today and to be able to connect to these wonderful people. And I know that we will be able to take the conversations further.
Thank you so much. Yanni de Villiers from Business Unity South Africa is saying that they as business from today on are committed to interacting with the civil society groups that have come out here, saying that they are pleased that they were invited to the summit so that they can too be involved in the fight against gender-based violence.
Zikhona, Tshona, thank you very much, Zikhona, for that update from Midrand.